It started when we called out the stars into the darkness. We felt so small, tumbling through vast emptiness while clinging to the skin of the world, and without a single reason why. We were curious. Yes, but ultimately, I think we were just terribly frightened. We were young, so very young. We were children, and like a lonely, lost child, we did the only thing we could think of make it stop. We did what we thought we had to do to make the universe make sense. We called for help. For years, we scanned the sky for a sign. We sent signals to the stars in the darkness beyond. Are we alone? But the skies were quiet, always so quiet, leaving us to our own makings. But crying children never ceased, neither did we. We sent calls into every corner of space for decades after decades. We refused to believe no one was out there. They had to be, yet, for some unknown reason, they never answer us. Everyone remembers when that changed, that they think responded to the RCBO message from 1974. The response to the RCBO message was received almost 3 months ago in two separate parts. The first part of the message was received at the Hat Creek radio observation in California. The Allen telescope array picked up what sounded like a static interference that continued on over an hour. It consisted of unintelligible screeching and buzzing sounds that continued without pause for a whole hour. The meaning of this message was never discovered. If it had one, the only thing we knew was the signal's origin came from somewhere in the Hercules constellation, near Messier 13. As soon as the signal stopped, the real message began. We had contact that day, and we were asked the question, "Who is there?" It came not through the radios, but as a voice inside all of our heads, asked the question to all of us. I heard it, my wife heard it, the young heard it, and the old heard it. Even the deaf heard it. Everyone, everywhere, heard this whisper, a question in their heads, in every language on earth. I remember it too clearly. It asked in a familiar yet indescribable voice that's always there in my mind. It was like one of my thoughts had gone rogue and had decided to speak directly to me. The world seemed to be stopped as everyone listened for what came next. Where are you? The heavy question seemed to linger in our minds for hours afterwards, and then for days, then for weeks. That day changed everything. There was doubters from the beginning, and the holy ones who claimed that God had spoken all of us, and that the time to repent was now. There were those who claimed there'd be nothing. Those who'd claimed about the aliens had given them their own secret messages. And of course, there were those who truly believed that we had been contacted for the very first time by an extraterrestrial race like us. One ready to communicate, ready to lead us out of the dark. We were wrong. We were never made contact with alien life, at least nothing comprehensible or discernible to the human understanding. The stars are vast, and their vastness our voices had touched, the ears of something truly comprehensible. Something hungry and malevolent. The voice. We realized our mistake when the ground started to groan. Beneath our feet, everywhere, the ground seemed to moan. The muffled sound shook through the dust and dirt below us. No one knew what was causing, at least not until the calls started coming in. The graveyards were screaming, all at once. The dead had started screaming. Every deceased man, woman, and child was turning in their graves. All the animals did so, too. Every dog, every cat, everything that had ever walked on this earth. The cries of the ancient whales shook the seas, and the shrill screeching of birds echoed in the forest. The cats shook, the morgues hollowed. The voices stopped together in an instant, leaving the world in an amplified silence. In their absence, a new sound filled the air. The voice returned. "I hear you." It came as a whisper from behind, an ominous yet oddly playful presence that felt so close, but was truly still so far away. It let us breathe in silence for a minute before it made us promise. It was a promise we all knew to be true. "I am coming." the voice was gone, and the air was again filled with screams. This time, they were from the living. After the voice had gone, we were left onto our own devices. Millions panicked, and rightfully as so, chaos took hold of the streets. Many would die in the violence and the gunfire of that night. They would be known as the Rapture before long, and the rest of us were the command. We could only wait. The scream dead was the only first of the side effects that we felt as the voice approached. The closer it got, the more we felt it. The first night after the screaming, we noticed the stars bleed for the first time. A section of the western sky had turned black, blacker than the night. It was only truly visible because of the ring of the stars around it. The light from those stars who had turned red, and they seemed to bleed across the sky like food coloring dropped into water. Their light swirled and flowed all around the edges of some unseen mass. I knew then that I was staring into the face of the voice. Our scientists claimed that nothing was there, that their radar and scans always came up empty. Their telescopes could see nothing but darkness into the section of space. However, the proof was right in front of us, as every night that ring of darkness got wider, and more stars bled in the sky. We watched it come. As each night passed, the black spots would widen, and each more of the stars would distort and bleed around it. During the day, as a new hell would greet us, the side effects worsened. The days always brought us something new. I'm sure most of us know what happened will go untold and unknown. The animals started disappearing, all of them. No tracks, traces, or bodies were left behind. Pets would run away, some violently so. They all retreated, never to be seen again. The forests were left abandoned, the oceans empty, the air were silent. The world left seemed empty and lonely. They felt like water receding from the shore just before the tsunami's break. One day, about 2 weeks ago, scientists tried to talk to the voice again. They hoped perhaps to reason with it. They told it about what was happening in our world and asked it a question. The scientists begged. It didn't speak. When asked what the voice sent a response, the night skies lit up with streaks of fire. It was a light for hours, blazing with orange and red. We didn't realize its effects until the next day, when the televisions turned static and the telephones refused to work. We had sat watching as all of these satellites were knocked out of the heavens. After the reports became rumors and rumblings, sanity a thing of the past, the air chilled and weighed us down. The voice was nearly here, and everyone felt it. It rained for a week after the satellites fell. The rain was salty and mired with an unknown filth that turned the grass black. Maybe the satellites tracked something black with them. When they hit the sky, no one knew for sure. All we know is that it fell from clouds black as charcoal that bloated up to the sun like liquid ash. Darkness fell upon us for days. When the clouds went away, the skies were empty. There were no clouds, yet the sky hung low and gray. If the sun was anywhere in the sky, it never made itself known. Even it had abandoned us. Each day it grew slower, darker, until the night and day became almost the same. Some people would claim later that they'd seen things in the dark, creatures with gangly limbs and crooked faces. Lurking in the corner of their vision, they were tall, white creatures that looked molted and rotten through their transparent skin. Appearances would last for a second or two before vanishing without a trace. Some believed this was the first step in alien invasions, but the rest of us didn't know what to think. We just knew this was nothing that simple. A Bajan, and must have been hallucinations just for madness to endure. But ultimately, as harmless as anything else, as harmless as the screams of the dead, the missing animals, and the dying skies. Appearances slowly increased in duration and number. I think everyone saw them once at least. But I don't think a single person would ever guess why they were truly here. They never touched nor spoken to anyone, and they certainly never harmed anyone. Most who got good looks at them described them as mournful or sorrowful looking. Some even claimed that the creatures watched them over the night, and others even claimed that it seemed as if the creatures were sorry for them. One claimed to have even seen one prostrate upon the ground, hands clasped above its head. He said it was praying for us. Prayer was no help. The churches and places of worship had been divided for so long, failed to bring hope to any of the end. The voice let them pray and beg for a while, but just days ago, the voice ended it all. No question how, for at the point of nothing that happened in surprise anyone anymore. But on the final day, all the books of worship burned, every last Bible, every Quran, everything. People rushed to their centers of faith, but found none solace. The churches and temples had suffered to those some fates. If not worse, the people were left abandoned by their greatest hopes. There were rumors of churches all over the world, with walls formed from their bodies of those who sought refuge. They were merged to the walls, stuck to them like fowls in a trap. They died still pleading for hope, but they were beyond God's help. The rest of us learned to stop begging. We waited. The final message came from the sky. It fell upon us. The voice echoed, and it spoke the simple truth. I am here. There is darkness beyond the horizon, the likes of which I doubt has even been seen. It brings with it the screams of countless souls, and it moves fast. The stars are dying now, and I know they'll never be seen again. The light is dying so fast. I believe this is not a warning. No, it's too far late for that. Instead, I consider this as the last realization, the last humanity will ever know. For we used to wander, whether or not we were alone and lost, but never whether or not we were safe and hidden. The universe is infinite, and our understanding so significant, more finite. We should never have beaconed to the darkness. Instead, we should have clung to the light and closed our eyes. For every minute we turned to the void. As the final minutes approached, I hold one final truth to be certain. I now know why the skies were always so quiet.